music right now, and you may have a question for me in this moment. You may say, Mr. Josh, why in the world are you on the wall in a video instead of being with us in person? And the answer to that question is because right now, in this moment, I am teaching the teenagers in the other building, and I cannot be in two places at once. So I am teaching the teenagers live, and I am teaching you guys via a video. The way this is going to work is it's going to be a lesson like normal, except for the fact that I'm going to be up on the screen the whole time. Mr. Walker will be here the whole time, helping direct and making sure you guys are listening and paying attention, giving out fruit snacks. If you have any questions or concerns, please ask him. So let's jump right into today's lesson. Who can, with a raise of hand, tell me what the name of our brand new series is that we started last week? Yes! The name of the series that we started last week is Words. Look at someone next to you and say, Palabras. Yes, words or palabras. And what are words? Does anybody know with a raise of hand? What are words? Words are what we use to talk to other people. Right now, look at someone next to you and talk to them. Use some words. Look at someone else around you, on the other side maybe, and use some words and talk to them. Now, does anybody know, with a raise of hand again, about how many words do we use a day? Remember, girls use a little more than boys. About how many words do we use every single day? Yes, that's right, about 3,500 words. That is a lot of words. Why are we talking about words? Remember, we said this last week. Words are, with a raise of hand, who can finish that little statement? Words are, with a raise of hand, Mr. Walker, call on somebody. Words are powerful. That's right. Now, when we say words are powerful, what do we mean? What does it mean when we say that our words, all 3,500 on average a day, what we use to talk to people, what does it mean when we say words are powerful? Yes, when we say that our words are powerful, we mean that they have the power to help people or to hurt people, to build people up or tear them down, to show kindness or bullying, to give peace or violence, to tell the truth or lies. Our words have so much power in them. Like, let me give you some examples. I want you to tell me if the word or statement or group of words that I say, tell me if they help or hurt, build up or tear down. The first one says, great job. Now, do these words build people up? Or do they tear them down? If you were to hear someone saying that, would you say, oh, that's a nice thing to say? Or would you say, oh man, that's not a nice thing to say? Absolutely. When you tell someone great job, that's building them up. That's helping them out. How about this one? Nobody likes you. What do you think? Is that a helpful thing to say? Or is that a hurtful thing to say? Is that a kind, building up thing to say, or is it a mean, tearing down thing to say? Nobody likes you is a horrible, awful thing to say to somebody. That would be a hurtful use of our words. How about this one? I hate you. Is that a kind, helpful use of words? Or is that a hurtful, mean, bullying form of using words? Absolutely, that's a hurtful way to use words. That tears people down. What about this one? I forgive you. Does that build someone up or tear them down? I hope that you said builds them up and helps them. You see, our words, on an average, 3,500 of them, that we use to talk to people have power. Extreme power. That's why if you and I are a follower of Jesus, meaning that we trust and believe that He's the way, the truth, and the life, and we want to live as He lived, we need to make sure that our words are building people up, not tearing them down, helping people, not hurting people. Which leads us into our key verse that we find in the book of Ephesians. Check it out. Ephesians chapter number 4, verse 29. I want you guys to read this verse together with Mr. Walker. What a powerful verse from the book of Ephesians, making sure that our words are good and encouraging and helping people rather than tearing them down. Now in today's Bible story, we're going to find ourselves in the book of Luke. Woo! How many books, with a raise of hand, are in the whole Bible? How many books are in the New Testament? How many books are in the Old Testament? And shout it out together, the Bible is a what? So we're in the narrative, God's amazing story of how much He loves us. We're in the book of Luke, and we find Jesus, again, like we saw last week with Jesus in Matthew, we find Jesus this week using helpful words to build up and encourage someone by the name of Zacchaeus. Maybe you've heard this story before, maybe you haven't. It's a phenomenal story about a guy named Zacchaeus, who wasn't the nicest of guys. He was a tax collector, which meant he worked for the government, but he stole people's money on the side. And a lot of people called Zacchaeus names and used their words to be mean and hateful to him, but Jesus came along and chose to use words that were helpful and that built Zacchaeus up. And we're going to see that it ultimately, because Jesus is amazing and He loves and forgives, but we're going to see that Jesus, using His kind words, is able to change the whole situation with Zacchaeus. So I want you to eyes on the screen as they've been, looking at the story of Zacchaeus and watching and thinking about how Jesus used helpful and kind words.
God's story, Zacchaeus. So part of God's story is about Zacchaeus, and it begins like this. Once there was a man named Zacchaeus, let's call him Zach, who lived in a town called Jericho. He was short, and he didn't have many friends. In fact, most people hated Zach. That's because he worked as a tax collector. See, back then people paid taxes just like now. But instead of sending money to the government, there were men in every city whose job was taking tax money from people. Problem is, those men usually lied. Zach, like most, took a lot of extra money from a lot of people, and all those people hated him. Anyway, one day Jesus came to Zach's town, and Zach wanted to see him, but so did everybody else. And remember how Zach was really short? Well, he couldn't see Jesus over everybody else's head. So guess what he did? He actually climbed up into a tree to look out over everybody. Now, imagine a grown man climbing up in a tree in the middle of a crowd. People probably thought he was crazy, or weird. But Zach was willing to look weird if it meant getting closer to Jesus. From up in the tree, Zach watched as Jesus walked up. Jesus said, "Zacchaeus, hurry down. Today is my day to be a guest in your home." This was kind of like a famous person inviting themselves over, except way better. This invitation would change Zach's life. Zach scrambled down the tree to take Jesus to his house. Maybe he thought Jesus didn't know about all the money he had taken, or how everybody hated him. But Jesus did know, and He loved Zach anyways. Other people saw this and they were mad. They said, "Jesus has gone into the house of a sinner." They wondered how Jesus could love somebody who had lied and stole their money. The great thing is, Jesus loves all of us, even after we've done things we deserve to get in trouble for, or even after we actually get in trouble. When we see that Jesus loves us anyway, it makes us want to show that kind of love to others. At least that's what happened to Zach. Right away, he wanted to make things right with the people he had hurt. He knew that just saying "I'm sorry" wasn't enough. So he told Jesus, "I'm going to give half of what I have to the poor." And anyone I cheated, I will pay back 4 times the amount of money I took. When Jesus saw that Zach was willing to accept his love and turn around and show it to others, he said, "My friend, today God has rescued you." And even though Zach had been a liar and a thief who was hated by everyone, he became a friend of Jesus and a part of God's family that very day. And that's the story of Zacchaeus. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Zach was short. He was a tax collector. He stole money. People hated him. Jesus came to town. Zach couldn't see him. He climbed a tree. Jesus told him to come down. Jesus went to his house. Jesus loved Zach. Others were mad. Zach made things right. He became a part of God's family. And that's a part of God's story.
So what were some of the things that Jesus said using his words to Zacchaeus that would have helped him and built him up and had been an encouragement to him? Exactly. When Jesus said things like, "I'm coming to your house," and "Zacchaeus, you got to change your ways." These are kind, helpful words to build up Zacchaeus that changed his life. Now, what were some of the things that the other people in the story said to Zacchaeus that were not so helpful, but rather was hurtful and was tearing down? With a raise of hand. Anybody? Yeah, some of the people were like, "Jesus, why are you hanging out with that guy? He's no good. He's a sinner. He's a tax collector. He's no good." Yeah, hurtful words to tear down Zacchaeus. But we see Jesus, who's perfect and amazing, use his words to build up and to help Zacchaeus. But the question today is, how? How can you and I, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at school, at home, at church, wherever we are, how can we make sure that the words that come out of our mouth, all about 3,500 of them, how can we make sure that those words are helping people and not hurting them, are building people up and not tearing them down? How do we do this? Does anybody know with a raise of hand? Yes, we need to think before we speak. How many of you have your bracelet still that we made last week? Point to it. Yeah, I got my bracelet. Yeah. And on the bracelet you should have the letters TYBS. Think before you speak. And that the bracelet and the saying, "think before you speak," helps to remind us that before the words come out of our mouth, whether we're talking to our moms, our dads, our teachers, our friends, our cousins, whomever it is, we need to make sure that we're thinking, is this word that's coming out of my mouth, are these words that are coming out of my mouth, are they helping build up, or are they hurting and tearing down? Because remember what our key verse says. I want you guys to read it again together as a group. Absolutely. We want to make sure, if we're followers of Jesus, that the words that are coming out of our mouth are helping people and not hurting them. So my challenge for you this week is to make sure that every single day, before you speak to somebody, whether it's an adult, a teenager, or a child, make sure that you're thinking before the words come out, so that we can make sure that the words that we say are helping build up and not tear down. Now, before we get into small groups, I asked Walker if he could walk us through some examples of what it may look like for us to think before we speak.